Hey, there's back with another video. So yeah, um, since the Newcastle game, obviously we drew there. City beat Chelsea. They've closed the gap to 5 points instead. We got next. We got what, Tottenham and United next. These are important. Obviously, like we're relying on Chelsea, but obviously at the end of the day, you can't rely on other teams. Once you gain the lead, you can only trust yourself. You can't rely on other teams to help you out and things like that. So we got Tottenham. Tottenham are in a bad way, obviously. They're having a poor season. So when I think about it, like, we're going for the title and Tottenham are having a poor season, regardless of it being an odd derby and they might be up for it and stuff like that. For me personally, I don't think it should matter. I think we should understand that but we have the momentum. We're in better form than them. We're going for a title. They're not having a great season. We shouldn't allow them to use the moment to get one over us. I don't think we should be. We should, especially when we know we're going for a title, we shouldn't allow the moment to be bigger than what the actual season is. Because in terms of the actual performances and in terms of actual momentum and form, that's all in our favor. But then obviously the moment is the North London derby. They want to prevent us from winning the title. They want to try and derail our season. All of those factors are all there, but I don't think those factors should be enough for us to like flop our season because of that. I feel like we're in good form. The players are performing. We're playing well. We're the better team. I think we should go there and win against them, regardless of what's going on. And then you got the United game. Obviously they're in good form at the moment. They're bouncing back and coming back up, but I don't think they've beaten any significant teams at the during that run. Obviously they beat us, but in this run where they've come back to like getting back into the top four and stuff like that, I don't think they've been any significant team. They're playing really well. Rashford especially is doing well over there. But I feel like with the way Rashford is playing at the moment, on that side where he likes to come in, we've got Ben White and Saliba. So I feel like them two guys over there can possibly handle him on that side. And if we can rely on them, if we can rely on Ben White, because Ben White has been really good against most wingers this season. He's been able to shut down wingers who can dribble one. Rashford he's got good movement. He's a good shooter. He's not the greatest of dribblers. He's not like an elite dribbler or anything like that. So I feel like Ben White should have enough to be able to deal with him. And in that case, obviously, the biggest issue could be off the ball runs. Like say he tries to hit us on a counter. I feel like that's where United most likely going to get joy. I don't think United will get a lot of joy if we're deep and they're trying to break us down. I don't think that's where they'll get the most joy. I think they'll probably get more joy if they have to hit us on a counter. But that's what happened in the away game. I think this time we need to be really aware and understand that this is where they're at their strongest. And obviously, I don't think we should be able to allow them to be able to exploit us and expose us. If they can expose us like that twice in the season, then that's terrible, especially when we're going for a title. You know what I mean? So I don't think we should be allowing all of that to happen. One of the biggest issue or one of the biggest factors of that game would be Casemiro. He's really good, solid defensively. And I know he's going to make a big difference in that hole. Obviously, when you're trying to create centrally, he can make a massive difference in that kind of area. So I feel like in the wide areas is probably where we're going to get most of the joy in that game, with the likes of Saka, Martinelli, and stuff like that. So again, I feel like we need to hit towards maximum points. Again, when you break it down, you look at Tottenham. As I said, they're having a poor season, regardless of the North London derby at the moment. They're having a poor season. We need to go out there and get the 3 points. Then you look at United. We're at home. There's no reason why we lost away from home to them. There's no reason why we shouldn't be able to get maximum points and then keep the distance with ourselves and Man City and hope that they kind of drop points again to increase that gap. Because the thing is, you don't want to be chasing Man City. They're the kind of team that if you're chasing them, they can just increase the lead and they can just go on this massive run of wins. And if they manage to hit form, they're so difficult to catch because they can do ridiculous kind of numbers. They can do 100 points, things like that. You know what I mean? So if they get into their stride, they're a really difficult team to catch. So whilst we're in the lead at the moment, we need to maintain that gap. So I feel like I don't see it as an excuse for us to be dropping points. Yeah, we dropped points against Newcastle, but they've probably been the third best team in the league this season. United and Tottenham have not been, so I don't see any reason why we should accept dropping points and things like that in those games. I think we should be going in there looking for 6 points against those two teams. But yeah, so that's those games. But yeah, we look forward to that. Obviously, in between the Newcastle game and now, we've also played the FA Cup. We played Oxford. We won 3-0. Obviously, goals from El Nini and Nketiah. 2 goals from Nketiah. For me, Nketiah, what was I saying about this guy? I mean, this guy, when Gabriel Jesus got injured, I said Nketiah's got the profile. He's got the right profile to replace him. You know what I mean? I know that Gabriel Jesus' link play is superior to Nketiah's, but it's not like Nketiah's a bum when it comes to link play. He drops deep. He's very strong back to goal. He's got like we've seen the transformation in his physicality. And that's also improved his technique. He's improved his ability to carry the ball. He's making runs in behind. He's pressing. He's dropping deep to link up play. And then I actually feel like he's a better, like, how could I say it? In terms of him and Gabriel Jesus, I think he's definitely a better finisher than Gabriel Jesus. There's a difference between being a finisher and being a goal scorer. I think he's a better finisher than Gabriel Jesus. Probably he's a better goal scorer as well, because he gets into this position really well. So for me in that case, no, I feel like Gabriel Jesus is probably the better finisher in terms of like shooting like from distance and things like that. But I think it's actually kind of close, because we've seen Nketiah hit shots from outside the box that have been close as well, stuff that we haven't really seen for Gabriel Jesus. And then in terms of goal scoring movement, I feel like Nketiah probably is the better goal scorer as well, because you see him constantly in the box, making these runs, making these runs on the inside or on the outside, knowing how to get at the right time. Obviously, Gabriel Jesus spends a lot of time outside the box, but Nketiah is able to balance that really well. And I feel like the way the season had been going, Jesus had missed quite a lot of chances, and Nketiah has come in and he's been taking those chances. You know what I mean? So, it like regardless of the injury, we've been able to replace him, and actually there's been some positive there in terms of Nketiah coming in, because he's actually been able to get himself into this position to score these kind of goals, and he's been a lot more clinical than what we've seen from Jesus this season. So that's a big positive for us as well. He's like, since he's come into the team, since Jesus' injury, he's played 4 games, he's got 4 goals already. So for me, that's a massive positive that we've seen from Nketiah. He's a really good player. You're not gonna get backup strikers like this. He doesn't even seem like a backup level striker. He seems like a kind of striker that can start for a lot of teams in the Premier League at the moment. He's a really good striker. So happy to have him in the team. Happy to see him performing. I think he said himself he just needs a run. He just needs a run of games. You're not gonna get the best out of him when he's on the bench, trying to come in, because you see his worth when he's playing 9 minutes, when he's making these runs in behind and things like that. That's when you actually see his worth, and you can actually enjoy him, because you see he has a full ability. He's able to do so many things on the pitch, other than just getting into the box. But then the fact that he's able to get into this position and score the goals is what we've actually been able to get. Is what we've actually been able to see an improvement in that sense compared to what Jesus was doing this season. And then we got Fabio Vieira. So yeah, I mean, obviously the issue with him at the moment is obviously the physicality aspect of it, as well as the general play. He doesn't involve himself a lot in midfield. He's really more of like a final third kind of player and a final action kind of player, someone who's playing the final ball. And what I've noticed is and I say this a lot, There's playmakers and there's guys that play like the final ball. I can't remember how I explain it, but there's playmakers and there's guys that just doing final action. You get the likes of like Mata, the likes of Bruno Fernandes, even De Bruyne to an extent. Guys like that, you know what I mean? Those kind of players like that. They're more so guys who, in the final third, they're very, like, they play like a massive volume of crosses or passes into the box. They just constantly feed in the final ball. They have this gift whereby they're able to play the final ball with the right way consistently throughout a game, and they're very focused on that. They're very aggressive when it comes to the final action. And then you got players like Odegaard, players like Ozil, players like David Silva, whereby they're more midfielders, whilst these other guys are more like forwards, where they're more direct, more trying to get into the box, more trying to create situations in the final third and action rather than just retaining the ball, whilst you got playmakers that can retain it. So with Odegaard, even when you look at last season where we said we wanted him to be a bit more decisive, even though he's scoring goals now, in terms of his final ball, he's not the kind to just consistently play a final ball just consistently. He's not that kind of type of player. He's the type of player that will help you to retain the ball, keep the ball in midfield, recycle possession, sustain pressure, keep the ball in the final third. And that's what you need in a team, because you can't just have a team full of players that just want to play the final ball, because otherwise you're not going to be able to dominate the ball. We're able to dominate the ball because guys like Odegaard is able to keep the ball. So that's what's important about having a playmaker like that. But what Fabio Vieira gives us is the completely different profile to what Odegaard has, because he's the kind of guy that he receives in the final third. dangerous, and he plays that pass. Even if he loses the ball, he doesn't mind losing the ball. He'll still play that pass. So you look at the assist for Nketiah and then the assist for El Nini. You see those kind of balls. Those kind of balls are perfect. You know what I mean? Like he's very aggressive with it. You've seen it even when he shoots as well. You see he's able to shoot from range. He plays his passes from range. He's created so many chances and things like that. So like when I think about a guy like Fabio Vieira, I think of guys like Mata. I think of guys like De Bruyne. I think of guys like Bruno Fernandes, and those kind of guys. They're key because at times in games it's not so it doesn't become so much about just constantly recycling the ball. If you have a team that's sitting really deep and in a deep block and they're hard to break down and you're just in front just recycling the ball, sometimes you just need a player that just puts the ball into the box or just is just very aggressive with the pass, and the moment he sees a run he plays it, irregardless of the thought process that he might lose the ball or something like that, or he just plays that pass. You want a guy who's just constantly in the final third who wants to receive, turn and play a pass, or receive, turn, shoot, receive, turn, cross. Just those kind of guys, you get that. Madison is another one like this as well, who's just really focused on what's going on in the final third and the final action. And I feel like Fabio Vieira is that kind of player. So yes, he's not offering so much in general play in terms of dropping deep into midfield and linking up play and passing and helping us to build up play, but we don't always need that kind of profile. It's good to have a variety of profiles, and I feel like we've got a variety of profiles in the squad. I mean, if you look at our midfield, for example, you've got Odegaard, who's more like a midfielder. He's a playmaker, someone that helps you to dominate the ball, helps you to retain the possession, sustain pressure on the final third, keep possession. You've got Fabio Vieira, who's more like a final ball player, who's just in the final third trying to find players that are making runs, trying to find crosses, trying to find through balls and guys like that. You've got Smith Rowe, who's someone who's more like he's at the moment I will think of him more like a box to box, even though he doesn't really offer himself deep at times. He's more a player that you want to give him the ball, he receives on a half turn and he's very direct. It's like a goal scoring midfielder. He's very direct, receives the ball, goes on a half turn, attacks the box, and then makes a lot of runs off the ball to get on the edge of the box. That's what you get with a guy like Smith Rowe. And that's something that Xhaka is offering, regardless of the fact that Xhaka is also able to drop deep and help us as well. So obviously, if Smith Rowe was able to offer more in the deep areas, then he'll be able to replace Xhaka. The difference between what Xhaka is doing and Smith Rowe is doing is that Smith Rowe can do what Xhaka is trying to do better, you know, in terms of making runs into the final third, attacking the channels. The kind of things that Xhaka is doing this season has actually been helpful, are the kind of things that Smith Rowe is capable of doing. But what he's not able to do is the defensive part of the game and being involved in a build-up play, which Xhaka is really good at. So that's why probably someone like Patino, who's on loan, can come back and offer that kind of balance between what Smith Rowe can do and what Xhaka can do in kind of like one player. That's probably what Patino can offer. So we'll have to wait and see when he comes back into the squad from his loan. But like I said, that's why it's important for us. Like, we've got a variety of options in midfield. I don't think there's a profile that we're really lacking in midfield at the moment. I think, obviously, I have mentioned before that when you look at the midfield, you like in terms of our centre mid, in terms of what kind of profile that we would want to add in terms of like a long-term replacement for Xhaka. I feel like we've got options. We've got Patino, we've got Smith Rowe, we've got Odegaard, we've got Fabio Vieira. So I don't think we're not hurting in that kind of position. You know what I mean? If we actually trust the potential of these guys, we're not lacking in that area. The area where we're lacking in midfield in terms of profile is mainly just a backup for Thomas Partey. But I think once we sort that out, we should be alright. Once we get a backup for Partey, because obviously I don't think El Nini and Lokonga are up to par in that position. But besides a defensive mid cover, I don't think we're lacking anything in midfield. I think where we're lacking in midfield in terms of depth is mainly in the wide areas, just for more support for Martinelli and Saka. And obviously, we're looking at the links and we've been seeing the rumours and stuff like that, and it looks like Mudryk is close to joining the club. So yeah, I've been looking at a lot of clips from him. Like I said before, even when we were linked with him from before, my only concern was I wanted to see him do a lot more stuff in terms of against the settled defence, a team that's sitting deep, because there was a lot of clips of him on the counter-attack and things like that. But you see a player, you can see why we're interested in him. He's got pace. He's really good on the ball. He can keep the ball. So he's a winger that can dribble. He can beat players. He can come inside to use the ball. He can take shots. He can create for his teammates. And he's not like, in terms of when he's dribbling and stuff like that, he's not the kind of winger who's like just like not good on the ball or not able to retain possession. This is why I said before that Gakpo wasn't a player that interested me in our wide areas, because it's completely different. He's a forward. He's more like a striker playing out wide. He can't dribble. But Mudryk can actually dribble. He can actually keep the ball. He can actually retain the ball. Because when you look at our wide areas is not just players who are just forwards, who are just there just to have the ball, play a pass backwards, and then make runs into the box. We can't afford to have wingers like that. We need to have wingers who are able to play in 1v1 situations, play on the last line, make runs off the ball, run with the ball to attack the box, run with the ball in 1v1 situations, drift inside to play with the midfield, link up play with the midfield, and get into the box and try and score goals and try and create chances. So our wingers are really complete. You know, they're not just wingers who are just forwards, you know what I mean, but just standing out wide. They're actual wingers who can also drift inside and use the ball, you know what I mean, and at the same time they offer runs in behind as well. So we need a more complete winger, and I feel like Mudryk is actually, he's got the tools to be able to do it. We just have to see. Obviously, if we're actually looking to bid for him, I'll trust our scouts in what they've seen if we're actually going to go for him. But I feel like in terms of the tools that he has, he's got enough tools. I like the fact that he's got pace. I feel like that's very important in the wide areas. I don't think we should settle for any winger that's not quick. We shouldn't settle for any winger because it's a massive advantage. Pace is a massive advantage. Look at, for example, like Martinelli's goal against Brighton, the last goal of the game. That was just off the ball runs, him playing on the last line, movement behind, willingness to make off the ball runs in behind, and pace. You know what I mean? And that's what you look at Mudryk, you look at all the clips of him, that's what he's got. He's willing to play on the last line. He can dribble the ball as well. Yeah, he doesn't always want the ball to feet. He also wants to make runs in behind as well. And that's another key thing as well in terms of our wingers. We want wingers who can receive the ball to feet, but also are happy to consistently make runs in behind. That's how you trouble defenders. Because a lot of teams, when they're settled, they don't mind you having the ball in front of them. But when you're willing to make the kind of runs in behind and attack the space in behind, which Mudryk can do, that's something that they will struggle against. And that's an issue for defenders as well. When you have a winger that can do everything, he can run in behind, he can receive the ball to feet and also run with it 1v1. And when he gets into a good area, he can also create and he can score goals. So that's what I feel like is important in Mudryk. That's another reason why I wasn't too interested in Joao Felix. I know he's talented, but I didn't think he suited what we wanted. For me, the only role in the team for him is up front. He's not, because he can't really play the 10 position that we have, because our 10 is Odegaard and he's more like a midfielder. You know what I mean? And then he can't really play out wide because Felix is not a winger. He's not like a 1v1 dribbling kind of guy in the wide area. He's more of a guy that wants the ball to feet and attack the box. Guys like Griezmann, you know, guys like Dybala. That's the kind of guy that Joao Felix is. And I think the only role for those kind of players in our system anyways is up front. And I feel like even then when you put him up front, I feel like you lose a lot compared to what even Nketiah gives us and what Gabriel Jesus gave us. It's like you lose a lot in terms of goal scoring movement, in terms of the physical quality that Nketiah and Jesus both offer us, which is what the press and the constant runs in behind. Because when you think about it, Felix wants the ball to feet, so he can always dribble, so he's always going to drop deep wanting the ball to feet. Yes, he makes runs in behind, but it's not going to be as frequent as the likes of Nketiah and Jesus. And that kind of penetrative runs in behind, attacking the channels, running with the ball and things like that, or running off the ball and things like that. Those are the kind of things that we would lose if we have a striker who just mainly wants the ball to feet so he can dribble. So I feel like I didn't think Joao Felix would suit us, and obviously it looks like he's going to Chelsea. I feel like he suits their system a lot more because they play this 3-4-3 and they have their two wingers, but they're really inside. They're basically inside forwards behind the striker. I think that suits Felix a lot more because then he has a free role. He's not really a winger. He's not really a striker. He's more like a 10 who's just floating about. I think that's the kind of system that suits him, not our system. So I'm more happy to go for Mudryk. Hopefully we can get this over the line as well. The next thing I wanted to mention was I saw that thing about, what was his name? Hussein Issa, the attacking face coach. Like last year or like earlier this year or earlier last year basically. I spoke about like in the NFL system, the way they do it, where they've got like an offensive coach and they've got a defensive coach. And for me, I think that's really interesting. Obviously, naturally you have that anyways in your first team coach and stuff like that. But if you can pinpoint a coach that you know is very good or is great in the offensive part of the game, and you can pinpoint a coach who's great in the defensive part of the game, because from what I can remember, I think Wenger had brought back Keown in the season where we reached the Champions League final to coach the team defensively. So I feel like that's a really good thing to be able to do. If you can find a coach who's an expert in terms of the offensive part of the game, and you can find a coach who's an expert in terms of the defensive part of the game, that's really key. And now we brought in this guy who apparently is an expert in the offensive side, and it's important because when you think about like these day and age now, with the teams you have a lot of teams that defend really deep and are actually really good at defending deep. I think this is why a lot of teams in international tournaments, they end up trying to play this possession style, but they're playing it, but they haven't. But like in international football, for example, they're not playing this style, but the players don't really know each other. They haven't played with each other so often. So when you play it, and you can even see with Man City end up in this trouble in the Champions League. But in an international tournament, if you're not really good at breaking down teams, if you don't have the right system, but you just want to keep the ball and stuff like that, you're gonna struggle against teams that's sitting deep, and you're gonna get a lot of draws. You're gonna get hit on the counter attack. So if you have a coach who's an expert at understanding teams that are sitting deep and how to break them down, who has great ideas, these little things are really important, because you get a lot of teams that are just happy to sit deep, and they're very good at defending deep. Because the thing is, they'll press you up there before you get to the edge of the box, but then when you get to the edge of the box, you've got like 2 banks of 4 already waiting for you, or 5-4 waiting for you. So we can have someone who understands how to break down these teams, who can basically just teach some of our wingers like little movements to make, or little things to do, or even our attacking means just little things to do that can create this space here or create that space here, or even someone who would observe the opposition team consistently, see where the weakness is in their defense when they're sitting deep, and understand how we can attack it or where we could. Just these little things can give you they can give you a small advantage that can lead you from a 0-0 draw to a 1-0 win. You know what I mean? Just anything can help. So I thought I've always been interested in that aspect, where you have a coach, you got a head coach, but you've got experts in various areas of the pitch that understand how to break down these teams offensively, or understand key things that can help you defensively as well. And I feel like it's something interesting that more teams should be able to do. But obviously, like I said already, I know teams obviously have coaches that are great all round, or maybe even in specific areas. But the fact that we specifically looked for an attacking phase coach, for me, is very interesting, and I feel like we're smart to be able to take advantage of that, because I think we also got a set piece coach as well, and we've improved a lot on set pieces and corners and things like that. I don't think we've conceded from a corner or from a set piece, from what I can remember, or if we have, it will just be one time. But yeah, so those little things can make a big difference in your season. But yeah, that's one thing there. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was obviously it's transfer window time, and obviously we've not got anything yet besides knowing that Mudryk is in there. But I feel like we do have a bunch of positions that we need to try and sort out. Maybe not this window, but maybe in January. But I feel like if we are, I mean, maybe in the summer, but if we are gonna get a few players in this January, I feel like the most important positions would be the left wing, which most likely will be Mudryk, and defensive mid cover for Partey, because we have to remember, like, the season is still going on, and he's a player like in the past 2 seasons who's not been able to play over 25 games or something like that, or over 25 games. Yeah, I think he's not been able to play that. So that doesn't. He's been fit this season, but that doesn't mean that can't change anytime soon. You know what I mean? So we're still not even halfway through the season here. So I feel like a defensive mid cover would be very important. We were linked to Douglas Luiz before, and Danilo. Maybe those are the kind of players that we need to go back in for again. Look for some options who can cover. You're not gonna find a player like Partey in the market. It's impossible, who can defend and who can distribute and control games. But I feel like we should prioritize a guy who can actually defend really well. Not a guy that's trying to build up play from the back, because Elneny can play passes from deep. Lokonga can play passes from deep. What they're lacking is defensive ability, defensive nuance, understanding how to defend in these kind of areas. And when Partey is not there, that's when we fall apart. Because obviously we can rely on the likes of Odegaard and Xhaka to help in the build-up play. Even Zinchenko drifts inside. So we're less reliant on Partey only to help us build. When you got Zinchenko drifting inside, you got Ben White drifting inside, you got Odegaard who's like a midfielder, and you got Xhaka there, and even Saliba and Gabriel was really good at distributing between lines. So I don't think we should focus on getting a replacement or like a backup for Partey who's someone that's going to be distributing. I don't think we should focus more on that aspect. I think we should focus on someone who can actually defend really well, so that when Partey is out of the team, we have a replacement for him, or someone that can come in who can actually defend, which is what we're actually going to miss when he's not there. Because if you look at the United game, that's why we lost the game, because we couldn't defend in that middle area. Everything, they just kept splitting the whole team. So I think we should focus on getting a guy that can actually defend as a backup for Partey. And I think that's the key thing. Obviously, long term, we look at centre mid. Like I said before already, we've got Patino, we've got Smith Rowe, we've got Fabio Vieira, we've got Odegaard, we've got Xhaka. So I don't think it's a major priority. But obviously, if Patino, for example, is not going to be returning back into the squad, we can obviously look for a long-term replacement for Xhaka. But I don't think it's a key area. I think the main key areas are left wing and defensive mid. Another area, but then the less areas or the less priority area which can be dealt with in the summer is more like left centre back. I think we've been linked with is it Indica, something like that? That guy who can play on the left centre back as cover for Gabriel. And then a right back. I feel like we should also go for a right back as well. Like a more offensive kind of right back. That way we can be able to rest Ben White and we don't have to keep on playing Gabriel Saliba in Europa League games or Champions League games and things like that. I think we need to get a right back, we need to get a left centre back and get a centre mid if Patino is not coming back in the summer. But as of this January, I think we should focus on Mudryk and getting a defensive midfielder to back off for Partey. But anyways, yeah, so those are my thoughts at the moment. So see you guys in the next video. Hopefully North London Derby. See you guys.